This is Marketing from the Front Lines, where we speak with B2B marketers who are in the trenches, bringing technology to market. Here's your host, Brett Stapper, CEO of Frontlines.io.
Hey, everyone, and thanks for listening. Today, we're speaking with Maya Hamburg, Head of Marketing at Sixfold. Maya, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So let's talk about the big question here. Why and how did you end up in this world of marketing?
Yeah, it's a funny story. I basically just fell into marketing. To make a long story short, I grew up in Sweden and then I moved to Amsterdam when I was around 20 and, working in bars and restaurants. And then at some point, a friend of mine was like, hey, Comedy Central is looking for a Swedish speaker in Amsterdam. So would you be interested in joining them? I was like, wow, that sounds like a cool job. I could be funny at work. So I joined them. I was running their social media account for Comedy Central Nordics. And it was great. I learned a lot about social media. At that time, it's Facebook was the real big thing, right? So I remember one of our two posts got viral, which was super fun. And I was like, actually, I kind of like this thing. This is a fun industry. You can be creative. You can check and track all the metrics. So from there, I actually joined Nickelodeon. So it's owned by Viacom. It was at that time, at least. So I moved to Berlin and I did all their content marketing for the Nordic side. I really liked it. At some point, I was like, you know what? I'm a little bored. I want to check out US. So moved to New York, kind of took whatever job I could find because, at that time, it was still hard to get a visa. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to take this. It was a fun job at a design firm. And that was my first step into B2B, actually. And it was I was the first marketing person there. It was a small team. I learned a lot about running a company, worked really closely with the founders. And then I made my way into the startup world where I am today. So I work for a B2B boutique firm, an agency that worked with a lot of scrappy startups in the tech industry, learned a lot. But then, Sixfold reached out and I was like, oh, okay, agency work, it can be a lot of work. Why don't I just check out how it could be to work for one startup instead of having, 10 different startup babies that all need everything tomorrow, right? So I joined Sixfold 2 years ago and that's where I am.
And how old were you roughly when you were flying from Sweden to New York that first time to move here?
23.
What's going on in your head? You're 23, flying into New York City. What's on your mind?
Well, honestly, at that time, I just wanted to have fun. That was my goal in life. I was 23. But, I really loved New York. I had a good friend. I was staying in my friend's couch for 2 years. Shout out to this friend that we're still really close today. But, I just wanted a challenge. And I think any business situation, I don't know if New York is the one spot to go to, right? And I really liked how fast everything was. I like that people you talk to were so diverse. You can imagine Sweden is a small country. You don't have that. New York is the opposite of Sweden. And I really loved it.
Yeah, I can see that. Now let's talk about your marketing playbook. Or before we dive into the playbook, can you just tell us a little bit more about Sixfold, what the company does, and most importantly, who you're marketing to?
Sure. Yeah. So Sixfold is basically AI for insurance underwriters. So all we do every day is building AI to make underwriters' life more easy, efficient. I'm going to keep it quick on what underwriting is, but anytime you apply for insurance, basically a human is reviewing your documents, right? If it's an individual insurance or a business insurance, someone is manually going through all the documents you're looking at. What we are doing is that we take all that manual work out of underwriters' hands and basically say hey, here are some areas that are risky that you probably want to look further into. And here are some areas that look really good. And obviously what that makes is the underwriting process goes so much faster. So we're basically helping, today we work with huge global insurers, just making the underwriting team more efficient.
And who is that ideal customer profile? What does that look like for the person or the persona that you're really trying to speak to in your marketing efforts?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's funny because, buying AI is a new thing, right? And it's a new thing for insurers too. So, 2 years ago when we just launched, it was we talked to everyone. It was the decision makers were on the innovation team or the decision maker was on the underwriting team. And then sometimes it was the CEO. And honestly, it's still a little bit similar today. Insurers are still trying to figure out how to buy AI. But what we found worked best for us is to talk to the chief underwriters, right? And the innovation leaders, because they are really the ones that are part of the day-to-day work that underwriters do. And also on the innovation side, they are part of trying to find the best solutions out there for the business. So I would say we have two ICPs on the buyer side, and that's chief underwriters and head of innovations or innovation leaders at big insurance companies.
And how do you think about the state of AI with those buyers? Is everyone just thinking, oh my God, like we need to get ahead of this? Are there some that are like, yeah, I don't know, it's all hype? What's the general sentiment from what you see?
Yeah, I mean, both actually, like all of it, all of those are both. I think like, a year ago, it was definitely people were just like trying things out. And they were kind of like, hey, what do you guys do? We might want to get into this. Today is like, we need AI. We just have to find the right vendor to work with. So it shifted a bit from like previously people were like doubting about should they start implementing AI. And now that hurdle is kind of gone. Now they're more like trying to understand which solution actually fits what they are looking for. So I think that's where kind of the buyers are today in their journey.
And if we look at your marketing playbook, what's the general marketing philosophy and the general marketing strategy?
Yeah, sure. I think like, especially for startups, because I think that's like really my expertise. I think simplicity always wins. Like, you know, having the messaging that have the most complex words, it sounds like GPT wrote it for you. Like, it's not going to work. Like at the end of the day, humans are still going to buy this product, whatever the product is. So I'm always like, we have to keep it simple. Like people need to go to your website and immediately understand what you're doing and who you're selling to. And then secondly, you know, for me, it's always like do two things really well. Like don't try to do everything because then, the quality of your content, the quality of your strategy is going to like be nothing. So like, for example, at Sixfold, we really focus on like content. Like when we put something out there, like a blog post or report, it has to be really good. Like it also means like it might take us an extra months to do it, but like we want to put out quality content and make sure people actually want to read what we are talking about. And then secondly, we're really good at events. Like we really carefully curate like the event list. We make sure we have some fun theme around it. We make sure we have entertainment there. We also like really make sure that the guest list is like good and people actually going to have a good time and like maybe meet a new connection. So those are two like areas that we really focus on. And I think it's really helpful as a startup to really focus on two things and not try to do everything.
This show is brought to you by Frontlines Media, a podcast production studio that helps B2B founders launch, manage, and grow their own podcast. Now, if you're a founder, you may be thinking, I don't have time to host a podcast. I've got a company to build. Well, that's exactly what we built our service to do. You show up and host, and we handle literally everything else. To set up a call to discuss launching your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. Now, back to today's episode.
If you look at general marketing best practices, and maybe these are some things that you see shared commonly on LinkedIn, are there any that come to mind that you disagree with?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it goes back to the simplicity I just talked about. Like, there's a lot of big and bold numbers out there. Like the other day, I was doing some research and it was like a company was like 100x efficiency. It's like, what does that actually mean? Like, what does that translate to? I feel like those bold statements, it's like hard for people to grasp. Like, it should be something more human and something more relatable. So I feel like that for me is always like, no, like make it simple, make people understand what this number is even coming from. And then the second is on this like ads, B2B ads. Like I'm sure people disagree with this opinion, but like I have, seen other people spend a lot of money on ads in B2B. It's not resulting in any ROI. Like it's really hard to say like, yes, this profit came from this ad, right? So it's like, I think ads is a lot of times a waste of your money.
I think simplicity is so hard. I don't know if you ever listened to Tim Ferriss, but he's basically like the OG of podcasting. And like 10 years ago, at some point, he had a line of, you make a plan and then just ask yourself, how do I make this simple? And you just keep asking yourself that over and over again. So I probably annoy my team at this point, but I'm constantly saying that to them and honestly just saying that to myself. Okay, we build this project, map out this campaign. Now, how do we make it simple? And it's just insane how everything just starts to strip away. All of this stuff that you thought was critical, once you make that push for simplicity, everything just gets so much better. But it's hard to do. I think it's very
really hard. Yeah. Especially if you like in that day to day, you see your website every day, you see your product every day. It's hard to be like, wait, as an outsider, is this simple enough? Right.
What do you do to make sure it is simple enough? Do you have a process that you found works?
I mean, I usually ask a lot of people for feedback. Like if it's friends, if it's like customer, I mean, customer is always the best if you have the resources to ask them, right? Like, hey, here's a website copy, which resonates with you. Like, is this simple enough? Would you click on this? And then like I do that, we don't always have a customer we can ask, right? Because there's a limitation of how many requests you want to do with your customers. But, ask colleagues, ask friends, like, hey, can you review this? Like, do you understand what we're talking about? Like, does the message come through simple and clear? And if they're like, no, then I'm like, okay, we have to go back to scratch.
What about channels and tactics that you're no longer doing. So is there anything that you were doing 2 years ago when you were first starting and building the marketing program that you've since stopped doing?
I mean, I think like some straight up ones is like Twitter or whatever it's called today. And like, I mean, for B2B, like Instagram, like we're a small startup. So a lot of the social media aspects, like we have definitely tuned up like LinkedIn, and I'm sure a lot of B2B companies are doing that today. But yeah, a few of the like social media initiatives that completely disappeared off my radar. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. It's just not going to work. So I would say that's probably the most simple one. And then I would say like, honestly, like marketing designy emails. Like it used to be one of these things that was like, yeah, we have to have a beautiful design email for everything. And I found that just like purely written emails in a simple tone is way more efficient than those like fancy, marketing Canva design emails. So that's something we're actually doing less and less.
I've been wondering about that too, because I'm seeing the same thing and it's frustrating because we used to spend so much time and energy on making these like, beautiful emails. And then they perform so much worse than just like the standard email, like, you would send to a friend, which I find to be a little bit frustrating, but I think that's just the reality. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because, obviously there's like this big trend and shift towards authenticity? Like, do you think it's an authenticity thing, or like, why do those work so much better than the beautiful ones?
Yeah, I think so. And I think also when you think about it, like, you're not going to reply to this beautiful marketing email, right? You're not going to hit reply and be like, hey, this was great. Or like, hey, yeah, I would like a demo. Like, I think just that comes more naturally from like just a written email that sounds like comes from a human, even if it's not direct for you, obviously. I think a lot of people today realize a lot of these are cold emails. But I think if it's done well, it just sounds more genuine and it's more interesting. Like, I think, the fancy looking emails, they just like don't do their job anymore.
Yeah, 100% agree. What about areas that you're aggressively doubling down on? Anything come to mind there?
I mean, like in-person events, I think I mentioned before. I think if it's curated, it's small, it has a good agenda, like people do show up and they want to participate in the next one, and it brings you good like word of mouth. And I think honestly, one thing that I think working is like showing instead of telling. And I think that is super important for an AI product because like, AI product could come across very buzzwordy and like, oh, we do this, we do all these things. And then like, but if you don't show people, I think like they just get tired of hearing it, like we are trying to more and more like do things with video, like on our website, on LinkedIn, like just really like showing our product. Because when we show our product, people are really like, wow. And when we talk about it, they're like, interesting, So the reactions are always so much stronger when we show them what we're doing. So that's something we're trying to implement more and more in our marketing.
What do you think is the sweet spot for those small events? What are we talking about when we say small? Is it like 10 people, 30 people? What's the number for you?
Yeah, I think it depends. Like, if it's a dinner, I would say like we usually say like max 12, because otherwise, the conversations doesn't really connect. And also like we're really trying to figure out that if it's 12 people, like who sits next to who, like who will get along, who will like, really connect in like a deeper level. And it's like, hey, we work in this industry, right? And then for like happy hours, I mean, we can be like up to 200 people, but I think there again is like, it can't just be 200 people vendors, right? It has to be like a mix of partners, a mix of customers. And I think that makes it super important because at the end of the day, you want people to go from there and be like, oh, this was a great event. I want to join next year. And they will talk about like how great your event was. So I think 200 people is probably max for happy hour, and then dinner, like 12.
For the dinners, do you have anyone present and talk? I went to one a few weeks ago and they did that. And I was so bored. And it was like, just like not at all what I thought.
Yeah. No, not at all. It's casual. It's like, of course, like the founders are there or some other people from our team. But it's really like what we sometimes do is we just bring up like industry topics, like, hey, this is something people are talking about the industry. What do you guys think of that? So that could be like the agenda, but absolutely no presentation, not like a sales pitch for Sixfold. It's like, no, we're just going to have a dinner, talk about some industry stuff, and hopefully people enjoy it. And like maybe in a year or two, when they think about, oh, maybe now we want AI, they're going to call us or not call us, email us, whatever.
Yeah, whatever the modern version of call us is.
Yeah, call us. I don't think they will do that. That's the one thing they won't do, call us.
Yeah, that's fair.
This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Co., a marketing leader's best friend in these times of budget cuts and efficient growth. We help marketing leaders find, hire, vet, and manage amazing marketing talent for 50 to 70% less than their US and European counterparts. To book a free consultation, visit globaltalent.co.
And what about your marketing team? How big's the marketing team today?
So we're small. We just actually hired our second marketing person. So it's me and then another girl. And then we just hired our first like official product marketer. She's starting on Monday. So I'm very excited about that. And then obviously we work with a lot of freelancers. So we have, a web designer and designer team that are awesome. And then video freelancer, and then a PR freelancer that we work with, like, with product launches or some big events coming up, then they help us get some press.
Given that you have that new product marketer joining, what's the first 90 days going to look like for them? What do you have planned?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's like Sixfold is a technical AI product. So it's a lot about learning the product from inside and out. I mean, she's going to spend a lot of time with the product team, that's for sure. But then honestly, I'm very excited to just have someone that has like, a really in-depth product marketing background, because that's something I don't have myself. Like I joined Sixfold, we were like 5 people, now we were 50. And I was the first marketing hire. And they were like, well, you don't have product marketing experience, but like, let's give this a go. And I've been learning a lot about product marketing. But I'm super excited to have like a senior product marketer on board. They can just be like, yeah, this is what good looks like. This is what I've seen work like in previous roles. And I'm really excited to just have someone with that like expertise that I lack. So I'm really excited about.
What else are you excited about in the context of marketing and the marketing plan? What else excites you?
I mean, I'm really hoping this year that we're going to get all those case studies approved. I think like any startups, you're really scrambling to get those case studies approved. And again, as I mentioned, we work with big global insurers. So you can imagine like getting that case study approved is a little bit of a process, like talking like 3 to 6 months here. So I think we're getting to that edge of like, yes, we're finally getting those on board. And then, obviously growing out the team and like doubling down on like product marketing efforts, more videos. And then, we have some big events coming up that I'm really excited to plan and host and just like make them better than last year's events.
What about founder marketing? Is there anything that you're currently doing on that front? I talked to some companies where that's like a top priority. They're making a big push, and others who say it's not irrelevant for our ICP. What's your thinking there when it comes to founder-led marketing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, our CEO is, we're trying to get him to like be more involved with LinkedIn and so on. And he already is. He's actually has a marketing background. So, and he's a good writer. So he's like, he's trying to do all this LinkedIn posts as much as he can. But of course, as a founder, that's like not all the time. You don't have all the time to do that. Like we actually thought like, okay, let's get a LinkedIn freelancer on board. And we did try it for a few weeks, but lesson learned there did not work. It is really hard to get someone else. Like the idea that she would like, help out with the draft and he would add like the touches, the lost edits, but we just kind of learned quickly, like it's not going to work. Like we need him to write these posts by himself. So we're going back to like, okay, he's just going to write them. So we're trying to push that out more and more because when he does post something and we really work on what that is, it works great for us. Like we get a lot of exposure, impressions and engagement. But, for any startup, it's hard to find that time.
What about AI? What's the thinking when it comes to AI and marketing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think like most marketers, GPT is a good friend today. And then Claude and all these, different platforms. So I think that's great. And then like, I love having Grain on every call, like that I can basically, and just collect all the notes. I think that's super helpful. Like I'm someone that really needs notes for every meeting. And I think in marketing, you get so much insights from just like all the meetings you're in with sales and customers and so on. Customer success, not customers. And I find it super helpful to just have that note taker with me. So I love Grain, Granola, and like that's currently what we're using. But I'm also excited to see like in the near future how like the different marketing platforms can like collaborate better. So we can actually have like insights in one place from AI tools. You know what I mean? Like they can actually talk to each other better. And I've seen like, for example, like the other day, HubSpot announced that they now integrate with GPT, which is like, oh, that could be cool. Like we use HubSpot and they're like, oh, could we get like prospect insights using GPT and connect it with HubSpot? Like I haven't tried it yet, but those things I'm very excited for.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but I'm getting ready to try it this weekend as my weekend project. So,
Oh, really? Oh, cool. Tell me how it was.
yeah, I'll keep you updated. Now, when it comes to B2B tech brands that you think are doing just really good marketing, is there anyone that comes to mind?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Clay and Figma are doing an amazing job. Like Figma, I love how they involve like their whole teams in their LinkedIn, videos, posts, and so on. I think they're super like focused on teams and just like making sure every employee has something to say. So I really love all their like LinkedIn marketing. And I think Clay does a great job on what we talked about, the simplicity. And like they have amazing product demos. So I think those two brands are like brands I kind of stalk on LinkedIn and be like, okay, what are they doing? how could we copy some of what they're doing or like at least get inspiration from it. So those are two brands I'm really looking at closely right now.
I'm still embarrassed to admit this, but I still don't understand what Clay does. All I know is that probably 6 months ago, 9 months ago, all of a sudden they were all over my feed. I don't know
Yes.
if it's their strategy or what it
I
was,
agree.
but it worked. Whatever they did, it worked great.
They work great. Yeah. I mean, they're like a B2B sales tool. I haven't used them because they're more of a sales tool. But of course, I've told our sales team, I'm like, hey, should we use this? Because their marketing is so good. So I'm like, hello, why aren't we using Clay? So I know they're looking at it, but I can't tell you exactly what they do either, but I love their marketing.
Yeah, I've dug into it, and like when I read it, it just kind of looks and sounds like Zoom Info, all the others. I'm sure they would be highly offended if I said that, but I haven't been able to figure out like why exactly everyone's freaking out about it. Like it's the best thing, but it's good marketing, and I love good marketing. So shout out to them, or hats off to them.
Exactly.
Now let's just end here with some final advice. So let's imagine that you're speaking to another head of marketing of a B2B technology company. What advice do you have for them just to succeed in their role and to really thrive in their role?
Wow. Yeah. I would say like be super curious. Like I think what I've learned at Sixfold is like I need to be in like every team's business. The engineering team, the product team, the customer success team. I just need to like know what's going on all the time. So like I join meetings that, I'm not invited to or like it's not on my agenda because I just want to figure out what they're working on. Because a lot of times, especially in tech organizations, like there's so much happening. And from the tech and product team, sometimes they don't see those angles that maybe the marketing and sales team sees and be like, oh, this is actually something we want to talk about. Or like, wow, like this approach that how we're developing this tech is actually very different. So I think like just being curious and, making sure you're kind of in everyone's business has been really helpful. And at the end of the day, you also really understand the product and like the customers you're speaking to when you do that.
Amazing. I love that advice. And I really have loved this conversation. We're going to wrap here. Before we do, if there's any marketers that are listening in that just want to follow along with you, where should we send them to?
LinkedIn for sure. Honestly, it's the only social media I use. So that's where you can find me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. It was great.
This episode of Category Visionaries is brought to you by Frontlines Media, Silicon Valley's leading podcast production studio. If you're a B2B founder looking for help launching and growing your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. And for the latest episode, search for Category Visionaries on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.